Welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV, the live TV show all about the legal aspects of your business to help educate you on complex legal terms in an easy to understand manner, to help understand why you need to do certain things in your business from a legal point of view, and to help you develop a plan for the future. Our mission at Business Legal Lifecycle is to help empower all small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. Have you ever wanted to get legal advice but didn't understand what was going on? Do you feel like there is a divide between lawyers and their clients? Then this TV show is for you. It is all about empowering you and your business with the knowledge and tools to ensure that this doesn't happen to you. Business Legal Lifecycle TV delivers a twice-weekly show focusing on the legal aspects of your business. At lunchtime on Mondays, we present Fast Fix Monday, a quick 5 to 10 minute show that will give you some actionable steps to consider for the week for your business. And at lunchtime on Wednesdays, we present our in-depth show of between 30 minutes and an hour, where we go through complicated legal aspects of your business in a simple to understand, plain English manner. And whether that is through educational pieces or interviews with experts in their fields.
Good afternoon and welcome to Business Legal Lifecycle TV and our podcast. This is our special monthly legal update episode for August 2018. My name's Jeremy Stretton, one of the founders of the Business Legal Lifecycle, and with me is Craig. So say hello, Craig.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today.
So the monthly legal update is our monthly show that we do on a Friday, the first Friday of every month, going through the changes to the legal framework for businesses in Australia and around the world, so that we can make sure that you're aware of what change you need to know. It's been a bit of a slow month in Australia for July 2018, as people would who live here would know that there were 5 by-elections held a week ago, and so not a lot of laws were actually passed or put through. But that doesn't stop us from finding the interesting cases and laws that have happened in the last month. So Craig, do you want to kick off with the first one?
The first one's regarding a battle over a will. I was in the New South Wales Supreme Court. They recently decided in the state, and that's the estate of the author Colleen McCulloch and her estate, which was worth about $2.1 million. The dispute was around there was 2 versions or 2 wills, conflicting wills. The first will, which was dated in October 2014, bequeathed her entire estate to her husband. There was an earlier will dated in July 2014 that bequeathed the entire estate, not to the husband, but to the University of Oklahoma, which is obviously where the conflict has arisen, given that's quite a difference between the 2 wills. There was some questions about capacity and intentions. There was some evidence about a rocky relationship with the husband. And in the end, the court found the most recent will was valid, with the judge saying that I've concluded that the Oklahoma will was not the last will or testament of Colleen McCulloch, but was revoked by another document, which was the one signed in October 2014. Which is the way wills would normally work. It's the most current will that is the valid one, unless there's a reason as to why that will is not valid due to testamentary capacity, etc. So what does all that mean? Obviously, that's an example of where there's a relationship breakdown. Very good idea to make sure your will is up to date and clear. There were some questions about how the will was drafted and the conduct of the legal reps that were involved and the way that some of the amendments were made. Again, very important to be clear, make sure your will's up to date and it reflects your intentions. In this particular case, the parties had to pay their own costs, given that the dispute was not as a result of the deceased's conduct, but rather the people around her. So good example of where you need to make sure that you update your will and make sure you do it properly. So that was the battle over a will in New South Wales. Jeremy, do you want to touch on the second one about slavery laws?
Yeah, so this is the introduction of modern slavery laws into Australia. So this is about the only thing that the federal government actually did, and the state governments did with all the by-elections. But in mid-July 2018, legislation was introduced at both the federal and state levels to help combat modern slavery. So what is modern slavery? It's an interesting term. It's an umbrella term that's referred to different forms of human exploitation, where the victim cannot refuse to leave, or can include human trafficking, servitude, child labour, sex trafficking, forced marriage, forced labour, and debt bondage. So there is a growing and long overdue focus upon the social aspects of such health and well-being, and the social value and the human rights of modern slavery. So for an organisation, basically what it means is that when the laws are passed, that we have to take a lot more notice of our project and supply chains to be fully considered that they're sustainable and that they don't fall into any of these areas. A lot of times, and there have been controversies over the years of clothing companies who have been accused of using labour from, or slave labour. And so the laws are going to stop people from actually using labour where they're not sure where it comes from. So it's really not easy to assess one workplace from another, and there are a lot of rules that have to go into it. And there are about 4,000 to 4,500 people in slavery just in Australia, and that's amazing, really, when you think about that. The bill is designed for both Australian and foreign entities that are carrying on business in Australia, and they're going to start off with businesses with a turnover of over $100 million, and they'll have to make a public statement declaring the organisation structure, its operation, and its supply chains, the risk that are present in their operations and supply chains, the actions taken to address those risks. So the risks we're talking about here are the risks of modern slavery falling into some of their supply chains, and then the actions taken, and including policies and processes around due diligence and remediation, and then the organisation's assessment and the effectiveness of those actions. So what does this mean? Well, it's not law yet, but it will be, and it's law that is coming around the world. So you're going to have to get ready for the tidal wave of transparency heading in our direction. And it's not something to be feared. It's actually something that's going to be great and should be encouraged. Public statements about human rights and modern slavery assessments and actions will allow businesses and projects to make more informed choices and move the market away from modern slavery and being more transparent. Try saying that 5 times really quickly. More proficient, more certified, and more sustainable in the long term. So there are many transparent supply chains now, but they're not perfect at the moment. So these laws that have been introduced in Australia are designed to fix a lot of those problems. Secondly, business owners, you need to understand and manage your current risks. So have a look at what your supply chains are now, and just make sure that you don't think that you might fall foul of that. Now's the time to do that, to go through your supply chain and work out what there might be. And the final thing to do is ensure that your teams, clients and suppliers understand that this is an issue. Make sure that they know if you are using work that's, especially if it's overseas or even if it's in Australia, that people understand that this is coming in and this is going to be a law. So we'll update again when this law gets into place. But it's one that's very important and something to know is on its way. And it's time to clean up the acts of if you do suspect that there's a problem in your supply chain. So that's the second one. Craig, do you want to do the third one?
Yeah, absolutely. As I understand it, the stats are that a lot more children are staying at home for a lot longer, which I can understand. Not so much in New York at the moment. There was a recent case where a man who was living at home was essentially sued by his parents, and the action they were taking was essentially for him to leave home. So the Rotondos, Mark and Christina, revealed that they wanted their son Michael out for good. They claimed that he contributed nothing to the house or to the family in any way, which is harsh. Michael, after a discussion with your mother, this is from the father, decided you must leave the house immediately. That's what the document read, the court documents. You've got 14 days to vacate. You will not be allowed to return. We will take whatever actions are necessary to enforce this decision. So these are in the court documents. Other court documents also revealed that he had or showed no signs of moving out and warned of further legal action if he didn't comply. There were several more notes sent over the course of the 3 months, including one which offered him more than $1,000 to find a place to stay, and another urging him to get a job. In the end, official eviction proceedings were launched, and the court agreed and ordered that the man leave the home. What's his name? Michael's out. What does that mean? Obviously, it's an interesting case where the parents want one of their children removed. I can't see it taking off as a regular court action. Definitely not in Australia, at least. There's probably going to be a lot more to the actual case, but obviously the judge, this instant, felt it necessary to evict poor Michael. So, yeah, one to look out for if you've got some children that you don't want in your house anymore. So
I reckon that's one that there's a lot more to the story. I think for sure.
Absolutely. All right, that's that one. Do you want to move into the ASIC and the ACCC corner for this one?
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, so the first one is the ACCC. And this is basically that the ACCC has announced that they're investigating bringing in similar laws to the EU data protection laws that have come in recently, basically to protect customers about their data and to give more transparency about data. So it hasn't come in yet. It has come in for banks. They do have rules around their data protection, but that is expanding. And the ACCC chair, Rod Simmons, came out this month in July and announced that they are looking at implementing it with all businesses around Australia. So stay tuned on that one as well. Australia's going to get some data protection laws, and all businesses, no matter how big or small, are going to have to start complying with those requirements. Craig, do you want to do the second one?
Yeah, absolutely. So the federal court recently found that one of Australia's largest debt collection firms engaged in misleading or deceptive conduct, harassment and coercion, and unconscionable conduct in relation to its dealings with two vulnerable consumers. These were debts relating to unpaid telephone bills the debt collection agency was engaged to collect. The conduct included ongoing harassment of a care facility resident who had difficulty communicating after suffering multiple strokes, as well as a Centrelink recipient who was falsely told that their credit rating would be affected for up to 7 years if they failed to pay immediately. They also made some more empty threats to litigate against both consumers despite knowing they had no means or only limited means to repay. So the federal court, after looking at that, you can see why, have found that particular debt collection firm has engaged in some misleading and deceptive and various other unsavoury conduct. So they've decided against them in that case. Jeremy, back to the ACCC, is it?
Yeah, so the ACCC, I thought this was an interesting one. They've announced that they're instituting proceedings against CryoSite for an alleged cartel conduct in relation to asset sale agreements with Cellcare in Australia. So CryoSite and Cellcare are the two providers in Australia of cord blood and tissue banking in Australia. And in June 2017, CryoSite signed an agreement to sell its assets in its cord blood and tissue banking business to Cellcare. On signing the agreement, Cellcare made an upfront non-refundable payment of $500,000 to CryoSite. Given that both of these companies, as I said, are the only suppliers of those items in Australia, the ACCC considers this to be cartel conduct. So this is an interesting one. Cartel conduct is not something that's often prosecuted in Australia, so that's why we thought it was interesting, and we'll keep you updated with what happens in that case. Craig, the last one.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is with ASIC. They've recently banned a former National Australia Bank branch manager for fraud. The manager was accepting false documents in support of loan applications and then falsely attributing loans having been referred by NAB introducers in order to obtain undue commissions. ASIC rightfully found that he acted recklessly and banned the particular branch manager from engaging in credit activities and providing any financial services for a period of 7 years. So that's good to see that ASIC is out there doing those sorts of things, because we definitely don't want the branch managers of our banks committing fraud. So I'm not sure about the penalty, whether that's adequate or not, but yeah, basically can't work in a bank or any other financial related entity for a period of 7 years. So yeah, anyway, that's ASIC. So I think that's it for us today for the Legal Updater show.
It is indeed. So thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be back on Monday with another edition of Fast Fix Monday, where we'll be talking about our current phase, which is phase 2 startup. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thanks everyone. Goodbye.